Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I'm going to hand this over to Camille Leonard, our artist in residence, to share with you an offering that's going to be added to our altar.
Yat A, good afternoon. It's good to see everybody here. And we're going to give a offering here. This morning at our class, we had a special offering that we put together. We made traditional tobacco ties in our class as a collective group, as a collective offering for this special event. Also, as a group, as an offering for Beaver, for all of the work that everybody here is doing in their work, and also for Mother Earth, for the water, for the sky, and all of our relations. And so I wanted to thank everybody that has been in our class as students, with Lisa, Nevada, who had to fly back to her homeland this afternoon. And I want to thank all of the students who participated in our class. And this is our tobacco offering on behalf of our class, for all of you, and for Beaver, and for this very special coming together for this gathering here. So we're going to place this offering here on the stage so that it will be with us until the very end. So we'll go ahead and place it here now. And I want to share also, it's just not a matter of a tobacco bundle, but every one of these bundles comes with intention, comes with a prayer, especially for this event and for all of us here. We are all related, and we are all relations, and we are one. And we are one with the water, we are one with Beaver, we are one with the trees, we are one with all of the beautiful greenery, with Father Sky, with the beautiful stars and beautiful sun, beautiful moon. We are all in relations.
That was beautiful. And it's a real blessing that they were able to open our conference, and they've held this sacred space for good communication with us and interactions for the last 3 days. So awesome. My name is Scott McGill. I'm on the board of the Beaver Institute, and I'm thrilled to introduce our next presentation. Right now I'd like to introduce Matt Brierley, independent shooting producer and director. Nadya Mirochnitchenko, she's an ecologist with the Ealing Beaver Project, and Dr. Sean McCormack, veterinarian project lead and license holder with the Ealing Beaver Project. And they will be presenting a film screening of Beavers in Paradise. It takes a village to reintroduce beavers into urban London. I keep having in my head there's going to be a Jimmy Buffett song in this somewhere, but thrilled to have you all, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. First of all, to say we are very, very excited to be here. We're not from around these parts. It's my first time in Colorado, so absolutely thrilled to be here as a project. The Ealing Beaver Project, as you can see, is a collaborative project. A lot of people have been involved in making it happen. First off, the group that I chair is called the Ealing Wildlife Group. We do a lot of traditional conservation projects in the third largest borough in London, England. And then we have Citizen Zoo, who are about bringing communities and citizens into conservation and rewilding projects. Ealing Council, who are the landowners for Paradise Fields, the site of our project. Friends of Horsenden, a community farm collective nearby. And then we're supported by the Mayor of London and also Beaver Trust, who you heard from yesterday, and Consano Earth, who have sponsored the film that we're going to show you. So while we're chatting, I would encourage you all to get out your phones and scan the QR code, because we can't cover the amount of information and detail and background that led to this project happening. So I'd love you to just save the website on your phone if you can. The unique thing you heard probably yesterday, if you came to any of the British talks, so by Roisin and Derek and Alicia as well, that the situation for beavers in the UK is very different in Britain, very different to here in North America. We're under different legal constraints. This is an animal that has been extinct from the landscape for over 400 years, and there have been limitations on how we reintroduce them. If we are to do it above board and legally, we have to reintroduce them behind a fence. So fenced enclosure trials is the way to do it above board and legally. The unique thing about our project, there's about 40 to 50 enclosure trials in the country. And we wanted to do an enclosure trial with a difference, to learn something new. And the two unique selling points of our project are A, that it is a truly urban site. It's probably the most urban site for a beaver reintroduction trial in Britain. And you'll see that on the next video. But uniquely as well, it's fully publicly accessible. So we decided very early on we didn't want beavers on one side of a fence and people on the other. We wanted to invite people in and make it an immersive experience with a beaver wetland as it emerges over time. So those are the unique things about the project. I've talked about the website, there's loads of information on there. And if you've been watching the background video there, you will see I'm probably giving away the punchline of our project right now, but we had kits this year. So we had 2 baby beavers born this year to our family, and that really has been really a buoying kind of proof of concept that the beavers are happy in the urban landscape. But what we're here to talk to you about today is how we got to this point. So do I have a clicker? I don't know. Oh, here it is. Yep, I've got it. All good. So I won't dwell on this slide too much, because any of you who've been to Roisin's talk yesterday, for example, and Derek's, have seen that the Eurasian beaver, slightly different to your North American beaver, very similar ecological niche, separate species, different chromosome number. They were almost eliminated across Europe and Asia. They were down to somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 individuals, so really went through a genetic bottleneck, and for all the same reasons as the North American beaver decline as well, fur, meat, castorium glands, etc., draining the land. They are making a comeback on mainland Europe, as you can see from the dark green areas there. But unfortunately, Britain is really lagging behind. Wales in particular, as Alicia talked about yesterday, is lagging behind even more. Sorry, Alicia. But we have, we're not connected to the continent, so we didn't have that natural recolonization of beavers. We had to actively bring them back. You might ask why in London. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I just wanted to point out, if any of you recognize my accent, I'm not from Britain. I'm from that westernmost point in the European landmass, out there on our own in the island of Ireland. And as a young kind of nature-mad boy growing up, I was looking at all the British books on nature and longing for beavers and all the other terrestrial mammals that never made it across to Ireland before the Ice Age retreated and the landmass detached. So I had to move to Britain to fulfill my beaver fantasies, guys. The next thing to talk about really is where they're popping up. So beavers have been back in Britain for about 20, 25 years, and that's a combination of officially sanctioned by the government releases behind enclosed fences to kind of trial what they would be like and what their effects are on the landscape, and some of the unofficial releases or escapes from those enclosures as well. Many of you have heard it referred to as beaver bombing. We wouldn't be where we are with this map of beaver distribution in Britain, was it not for the unofficial release strategy as well as the official. So why London? You can see here down in the bottom of the screen, the capital, is surrounded by heat map where there are wild beavers. So we said that In order to learn how to live alongside beavers in towns and cities, I think it's 83% of people living in England live in towns and cities. It's a very densely populated country, and you can see that beavers are already on their way back there. So we've got a population of beavers in Kent, in the southeast corner of England, up to 500 wild free-living beavers encroaching on London and coming up to the outskirts to the south. We've also got a population in the west, in Oxfordshire. So we said that actually the kind of time is now to start talking about beaver comeback, especially around Greater London. We partnered, or Citizen Zoo partnered with Beaver Trust to set up something called the London Beaver Working Group, really to bring together nature stakeholders and ask two main questions. The first one being, are we prepared for beavers to land on our doorstep tomorrow, or in 2 years' time, or in 5 or 10 years' time? Are we prepared for that? Should we be doing some public engagement? Should we be asking people or educating people about how it is to live alongside beavers again? And the second question really was, is there any kind of interest or resource to actively reintroduce beavers in London, again, to change hearts and minds, to educate, to learn how to live alongside them in the urban context? So that's why we pushed ahead with asking for a license in urban London. The complexity of that task, or sorry, I just missed one thing, just to show you what a beaver fence looks like. We had to put a 1.2 kilometre stretch of beaver fence all around our site at Paradise Fields, with an overhang on top, with a mesh skirt on the bottom to prevent beavers getting out. This is a very controlled kind of legal trial. It is very intensive in terms of time and money and cost. It's not something that's sustainable long term. Beavers are a native protected species, and we are sort of in this weird kind of ludicrous political situation where this native protected species can only be legally reintroduced into the country behind a very expensive fence. So it's not a long-term sustainable situation to be in, and with the wild beaver population growing in time, there's a lot of mounting pressure on government, especially new government, to come up with a solution and come up with a wild beaver release framework. So it was an extremely complex kind of and long-winded process to get the beavers to where we are now with babies and happy in Paradise Fields. I won't bore you with all the details here. You can have a look at this timeline in detail on our website. But just to say that there was several kind of milestones and really important steps that we had to get through. I think the first one was talking to Ealing Council, who are the landowners, and really saying to them they had plans for Paradise Fields, which Nadya will talk about later, of one of the objectives of the project. They had plans to do some flood mitigation works at Paradise Fields. And we went to them because we had a relationship with them that they trusted us on other conservation projects, and we said that beavers could be a nature-based solution to urban flooding problems. Now, we were very, very lucky because the head of parks in Ealing Council is a Canadian called Chris Welsh, and when we went to him and said, Chris, we think beavers can do this job, we want to bring beavers back to Ealing, he said, okay. So we got over that hurdle very, very quickly, and we were very lucky on that. But then we had to convince the community. So this is, extremely densely populated area. We have, tens of thousands of people living in very close proximity to this site. So we launched a public consultation. We went to Natural England with a feasibility study helped by Beaver Trust, and we set out all of our objectives. And to be honest with you, we battled with Natural England for about a year to get this license, because it hadn't been done before that we were putting them into such an urban setting. There was a lot of risks involved. There was a lot of issues if beavers escaped, potentially. There was the issue of allowing the public in but not letting beavers out, so lots of logistical challenges there as well. The main concern we got from the public, from the community, was not the usual ones. We got the usual ones, like beavers will eat all the fish, or beavers will eat all the trees and we'll have no trees left in the borough. So there was an education piece to do around that, and this is an animal, again, as I say, it's been gone for 400 years. So we really had to do a big education piece on kind of squashing the myths and misconceptions around beavers, and also squashing the fear of the unknown, because people just don't know what to expect when beavers come back. The main concern people had was for beaver welfare. Would the beavers be okay in such an urban environment? Was it suitable habitat for them? And would they be safe from humans with ill intentions? Would they be safe from dogs? And we had to reassure them that everything a beaver does is putting, deep water refuge in between itself and its family and danger. And we've had no problems really to speak of on that front. This is just a little video that shows you the context of the site. So a little video of release day. You can see there's a shopping centre, a retail park on one side. There's some industrial areas on the other. It is a very, very urban area. This is the main lagoon where we release the beavers. And it's a site that is kind of sunken and acts as a kind of a bowl for all of this drainage in the surrounding area, and then releases that water downstream into urban Greenford. These are the beavers coming out. You'll see we got a family of 5 beavers. We got mum, dad, an adolescent daughter, and 2 kits born last year. And as I say, they've had 2 further kits this year. But we had what felt like the world's press. You know, everyone was very, very much enamored with this strange project that was releasing beavers back into urban London. So we had a load of press and media attention. It was quite, you know, daunting and nerve-wracking. Would it go to plan? The beavers did absolutely fine, and they melted into that landscape just fine on the morning. The media coverage really surprised us. It has captured imaginations all around the world. CNN syndicated the story globally, and we got feedback from the Philippines and Australia that they'd seen our beavers going into this landscape at Paradise Fields. So it really, you know, emphasized the importance of the project in putting the animal back right into the heart of our communities again and getting it into the public consciousness. We also, I kind of forgot about this, and I'm not being modest saying that, but someone reminded me the other day, we also met the king. And people said, what king? And I said, the king. We met King Charles, as he is now, and he came along, and we got the King's Award for Voluntary Service, and he came along, and we met him, and I shook his hand, and I said, yeah, we're the one who introduced the beavers back into urban London. And he said, I had heard you'd done that. I hope they're under control. And we had a good laugh. I got a beaver skull into his hand for the photo opportunity. It all felt very Shakespearean. And when he was leaving, and I kept him chatting for quite a long time, when he was leaving, I said, if you need an Irishman to reintroduce beavers on the Royal Estate, you know where to come. And he got a great laugh out of that. So I don't know. He may have been gritting his teeth behind the scenes, but that was good. But the bigger character than the king is our big female beaver. She was the biggest beaver ever trapped and translocated in Scotland for a reintroduction project in England. She was 30 kilos when she came. And I'm a vet, so I operate in dog weight. So I always tell people about how do you visualize how big a beaver is. Big Mama is the size of an athletic Labrador or an obese Springer Spaniel. That's my guideline. So Big Mama came. She was 30 kilos. Her partner was 19 kilos. He's probably a young animal that dispersed into her territory after her mate died or was displaced. And because he was such a smaller, younger individual, we called him unofficially Toy Boy. So we have launched a more child-friendly naming competition with the pupils of local primary schools, and you are getting the sneak peek on the final decisions. The official names, which are yet to be announced, are Woody and Willow for Mum and Dad, and Chewy and Chompy for this year's kids. Yeah. So the amazing thing that I found with this project is really that it is a community-led project. And from the very beginning, you know, we launched an initiative in Ealing called Rewilding Ealing, and we asked the parks to lay off some of the manicuring of the parks and to allow nature-based kind of processes to lead on some of our grassland habitats. We reintroduced Britain's smallest native rodent, the harvest mouse, 4 to 6 grams, as a little trial for what was coming later. And I joked and I said, maybe one day we'll release Britain's largest native rodent, and everyone laughed at me. And look at us now. We did it. But it wouldn't have been possible without the help of our volunteers. We've got an army of volunteers, incredible community, got right stuck in as soon as we got our license to come in and help clean up the site. The group in the blue tabards are a local litter action group called Lager Can. Litter Action Group for Ealing residents can. And Kathy there in the front, she absolutely loves the beavers. She calls them her partners in grime because they are dredging up the sediment layer from the brook and the lagoon, and they're uncovering litter that's probably been in there for 20 years, and she's pulling it out. So she absolutely loves the beavers. It's another service the beavers can provide. Did you know that? Yeah. So I'm going to hand over now to my wonderful colleague, Nadya. She is our project ecologist and an absolute powerhouse, and she's going to tell you all about the objectives of the project and have they been met. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Sean. Next slide. Okay, perfect. Next slide. So yeah, Sean alluded to some of the objectives that we have with the project. One of the main ones was to mitigate urban flooding. Sean kind of described the process of what we needed to go through with talking with the council, which is our local government, and because this site that was selected for the beaver reintroduction, just downstream of it is our local tube station, Metro guys, subway. And yeah, that is very prone to flooding, especially during high rainfall events. So whenever there's a lot of rainfall, the water just like gushes through and just overwhelms that area in urban London. So this site was already earmarked for very expensive engineering works by the council. And well, how Sean described, we went to them and we're like, well, beavers can do it for a fraction of the cost. We have nature-based solutions. Just let us give us a chance. Let's try it out. And so we reintroduced the beavers a year ago, to the month this month. So we introduced them and actually got to release them on October 11th. So this picture is really wonderful. This is one of the first dams that they have built. And sometimes it got washed away during high rainfall events. They kept on building up. The reason that they put this dam and there's so much work behind this dam is that there's a path that crosses over. This is a fully accessible site. There's a path that goes through there. And we suspect that this is a deep water refuge for them to cross over the path rather than underneath the culvert under the path, because then they can hide if there's something that scares them over the way. But you can see here, this is one of our other project leaders, Elliot Newton from Citizen Zoo. He is standing on the anniversary of our release, and you can see just how tall this beaver dam is. We have about 7 functioning beaver dams on the site, so we can actually see that they're holding so much water. And this has been put especially to trial a couple of weeks ago when we've had historic rainfall events. There was flooding everywhere. There was flooding upstream of our site. There was flooding uphill of our site. But where we said, just downstream of here, where we're going to mitigate flooding, it did not flood. So give a round for the beavers. Yeah. So objective number 1, check, yes. We do a couple of other things with this objective as well. One of the things that we do is we monitor water quality. And we are seeing that compared to the inflow, the amount of the water that's coming into the site has high phosphates and nitrates, for example. And once it leaves the sites through the filtration systems and having a chance to disperse around, there's almost a 50% reduction in phosphates and nitrates, and at an urban site. So it's really important for water quality as well. So water quantity, water quality. And that's also really helping, both of those pieces are helping the aquatic invertebrate community. Before we got our beavers onto site, we did do baseline surveys. I mean, it was a big rush to try to get everything in. So we also partnered with some local, with ZSL, which is the London Zoo, and we've also done some invertebrate work ourselves. And we saw that before the beavers came, the site had very poor insect communities. We've only been seeing very tolerant species, not very many of them. So it was very refreshing to see that we're starting to see more sensitive species come back after the beavers. We're seeing clouds of Daphnia. We're seeing water scorpions. We're seeing bigger, more sensitive things. Caddisfly larvae is one of our examples of very sensitive areas, and now we're seeing in urban London come back. So it's very heartwarming that a stream that was considered poor before the beavers were reintroduced we're having a really great bounce back from the invertebrate community. Yep. And that helps feed the food chain. This is what I'm really excited about as an ecologist, but watching how the site changes over time. So this video is one of our camera traps that has captured a rare bird species, not this one, the previous one. That was a water rail that was just on before. And these are just a few of the species that we can capture on our camera traps, kind of roaming around and enjoying the beaver ponds. We do camera traps. We have acoustic recordings. We really try to look at the indicator species because we don't have unlimited resources. As Sean kind of alluded to, most of the people associated with this project are volunteers. I have a full-time job on top of this. So it's really great to find ways that we can have very quick and automated ways to track biodiversity change. Some of the highlights that I want to bring up was that water rail. That is a very rare and sensitive species. It's been Sean's nemesis. He's not been able to see that for many years, and this is the first time we've recorded it on site. It was 1 year later. We're also looking at amphibian communities. And before we saw very little amphibian presence on site, but now we're starting to see frogs, and we're really looking forward to next year, hoping to also track a lot of more frog spawn. But we're starting to see the signs coming back, and especially with better water quality and the insect community, that's going to hopefully flourish as well. Some of our acoustic recordings include bats. So we're also monitoring bat populations, and we have detected the Daubenton's bat, which is also called the water bat, on our site for the first time. So we did not record it the previous year. So this is a very big success. Less than a year in, we're starting to see a lot of these changes. We're seeing other species as well, kingfishers, a lot swifts coming in. So this is becoming a refuge within the city. The third objective of the Ealing Beaver Project is to learn to live with beavers. This is probably the most important part, and it is all about the people. It's a human-centric objectives. So we're trying to change hearts and minds. We have tons of people coming in. It is becoming an attraction. It is a place for people to come and gather and learn and be proud of the community. So we have a couple of different ways that we try to educate. And one of the ways is through interpretive signage. We have interactive signs throughout the site. You can track photos of the landscape and see how it changes over time. There's species-specific education. You can scan the QR codes on the site. It leads us to our website, and then you can learn about the species. So we're not, as a fully accessible site, open 24 hours a day, we can reach people that are not just go to our events, but just people that are coming by as well. But we do events. So we have, on top there, we have, this was a walk. So we do walks and safaris to really do a lot of education and outreach. We definitely have turned a lot of people into beaver believers, and they help spread the word. That sign up there, that beaver crossing sign, is a very popular place to take a selfie. And we also do a lot of volunteer groups. So we do volunteer groups. This is a corporate group right there. And if you see the rope barrier that's in front, as a fully accessible site that people can just roam around, we have done simple mitigations such as putting this rope barrier to try to give beaver refuge zones, to give beavers a little bit of space as well. So there's a lot of education that goes along with it. And with that, we have also murals that are to the entrance of our underpass. This mural kind of shows some of the biodiversity that's really supposed to benefit from the beavers being there. And we have 2 murals on either side of the park. And that's just another way that we can revitalize the community. And people really gravitate to this. This used to be covered with graffiti, and now people really do respect our murals. So if you don't want something graffiti, just paint something pretty on it. And another part of our education is that we commissioned a film about our project to really reach wider audiences. We've done a screening in Ealing, and we also have done an online screening. This is the first time this is going to be screened in North America, so what a pleasure, you guys. And we are also very honored to have the filmmaker here with us. So this is award-winning wildlife filmmaker, Matt Brierley. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm Matt Brierley, and I'd like to thank BeaverCon for facilitating me being here, and also the Ealing Beaver Project, who also wanted me out here. So I am an award-winning wildlife filmmaker. I've made content for the BBC, Nat Geo, Disney, NBC Universal. I've worked on some of the big prestigious landmark series like with David Attenborough. And being here, I want to utilize this opportunity. I don't want this to be sort of the end of my journey into the world of beavers. I want this to be a new beginning. I've met so many inspirational characters with so many fantastic stories. And last week I was at a symposium for wildlife filmmakers. I would like to make a documentary, a conservation optimism documentary, working title Beaver Believers, and bring some of these fantastic stories to a global audience, hopefully of millions. So if you've got a beaver story, a conservation optimism beaver story, find me in the app, send me a message, or I'll be out loitering in the lobby after this. Come and have a chat. That'd be wonderful. Thinking of conservation optimism, of all the projects I've ever worked on, this has been the most special, the most joyful, the most uplifting, the most meaningful. It's been an absolute pleasure to work on this particular project. We have not had the huge budget that gets thrown at the big landmark series. The budget for this film wouldn't even cover 10 seconds of a David Attenborough documentary, yeah? And yet, I think it's a charming film. So I really hope you enjoy it. It's 15 minutes long. So let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the movie. Thank you.
Now, if you like little furry animals, you're going to like this, because beavers are back in West London.
Very excited! It's like Christmas.
Beavers just swam off into the lagoon, swimming around, doing their beavery things.
They're back where they belong. Paradise Fields.
I'm Dr. Sean McCormack and I live in the borough of Ealing in London. And in 2016, I set up Ealing Wildlife Group to protect and enhance urban nature. In Greenford, in the north of the borough, there's a high flood risk, and that's a real worry for us in climate change Britain. Not far from here, there's a real oasis of nature. You go through this underpass and it's like entering another world. And it might be cheesy to call it paradise, but it's actually in the name. It's called Paradise Fields. Despite the fact that this is a degraded habitat, the site was really important to me during the COVID pandemic. Like a lot of the British public at that time, I was getting out in nature, and I did become a little bit obsessed with one particular mammal, or rather the absence of it. You might think it was beavers, but actually it was Britain's fastest declining mammal, the water vole.
It's 2 weeks since I last came to set some camera traps for water voles. And I'm back today to check and see if we've got any footage.
But it was pretty bleak news, and I came to the conclusion that water voles were locally extinct.
My name is Elliot Newton. I'm one of the co-founders of Citizen Zoo. We're an organisation that specialises in rewilding and species reintroductions, and we've successfully reintroduced water voles into Greater London. And Citizen Zoo were curious to find out if Paradise Fields had potential for a water vole reintroduction.
So, what do you reckon? What's the consensus?
Yeah, so right in its current condition, it's just not suitable for water voles.
The habitat just wasn't quite right.
There was, however, one large lagoon that showed some promise, and visiting that gave us an idea. Around that time, Citizen Zoo had set up the London Beaver Working Group. So we'd been searching across London for a site suitable for beavers, and here was Sean with the Ealing Wildlife Group with a site that might not be perfect for water voles, but certainly could be great for beavers.
We realised if we brought beavers here, they would actually create optimal water vole habitat.
So it might be surprising for some people to hear, but beavers are free living across many parts of England. There's actually some living in nearby Kent. So sooner or later, these beavers are going to naturally recolonise London's waterways. So this project is about preparing us for that eventuality.
But not only that, having beavers upstream of urban Greenford will reduce its flood risk. Beavers are a native species we've lost, and we have a duty to bring them back.
Paradise Fields is managed by Ealing Council.
Ealing Council were up for it, so it looked like we were all aboard the beaver train.
Across Europe and North America, you can find beavers living in the heart of urban environments. So they're not the wilderness species that some people might think they are.
Beavers have been reintroduced across the UK, but nowhere as urban as this. To reintroduce beavers, you do need a licence from Natural England. And their major concern on this site was that it is very urban and it was going to be open to the public. Here we are now in 2023 with the daunting challenge of erecting 1.2 kilometres of beaver-proof fencing.
Driving through here, concrete jungle, and then you're opened up to this beautiful site. So I'm James Hillary, I'm an agricultural and equine fencer. For a job like this, we're using all handwork. It's around 300 posts, and they're at 4 metre spacings. 2 weeks, 4 people. This is our 6th day. It does get exhausting. We're on the home stretch. We've got all the posts in the ground now. This obviously has the turnout and the skirt on it to prevent the beavers climbing over it and to stop them digging under.
How do you feel at the end of a working day?
Knackered.
So here, all of the animals are species that will be affected by the new beavers being introduced. If you see more of these, the beavers are helping the ecosystem. I sent a pitch through about the idea of one side of the underpass being underwater and the other one fading from twilight into daylight, because the beavers are called crepuscular. They come out at twilight. Another thing I really enjoy about this project is it's the right combination of arty and nerdy. I've been working with Sean. When we picked the animals, I had to send him the pictures and he was like, actually that's the wrong type of stickleback. I love that kind of attention to detail, that's so important. What's important about this is it's called an indicator species. So the more bats that are in the area, it shows how well the ecosystem is doing. People will visit Paradise Field. They'll remember the time this interesting rewilding project happened to Ealing.
Today is one of our field recorders days and we're focused on botany. We get local volunteers to come across the site and working with a leading botanist, Mark Spencer, we are surveying so we can see how our plant communities change over time once the beavers arrive.
These plants that are growing here very well now are actually naturally dominant, robust species. Sedges, willows, rushes, reeds. These are the big chunky beasts. Having beavers come in and nibble all of these things creates open space. Many wetland habitats, like the plant is sitting in the soil as seed. They can last for decades, if not centuries, waiting for their moment, for the ground to open out, the sun to hit the ground and for them to be able to grow. Plants get around by extraordinary ways. If there's good habitat here, they'll come.
I certainly will never forget our trip to Scotland.
So excited to meet some beavers.
Oh, I'm incredibly excited.
Roisin from Beaver Trust has been out trapping and she has found a family of beavers, not just 1 or 2, but 5 beavers. It's getting a bit real now, isn't it?
So real.
How incredible is that view? The sun came out for us, Elliot. Big day.
Oh, very big day. Good morning, machines. How you doing? We've just arrived.
Here we are.
Hello.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
I'm Dr. Reintroduce Beavers. I'm head of restoration with the Beaver Trust. So this family, it's mum and dad, a daughter from a previous year and 2 kits from this year. The kits are definitely characters. They're wee eating machines, so they're out all the time. And mum, I think mum's got a special place with all of us because she's just been such a big animal. That's been unusual. One of the largest that we've ever trapped. So she's quite an impressive animal. Definitely, the protector in the family and looking after everyone.
Also, have to say, how cute is the kit? It's like a little teddy bear, isn't it?
They are absolutely beautiful creatures.
Totally. They're hopefully going to change a few hearts and minds in London and beyond, not only changing their landscape, but I think they've got a really, really important job to do.
Well, if these guys can't do it, I don't know who can.
So the beavers are trapped in conflict areas under licence. So we bring them into our holding facilities at Five Sisters Zoo. They undergo a series of health checks just to make sure the beavers are in the best condition and fit for release.
It was absolutely crucial to observe a beaver health check. I'm also a vet, so if the beavers get sick when they come to Ealing, I'll be on the front line to look after them.
So we go through a set process. This has been agreed with not only vet specialists, but also it's a licensed condition. We take fecal and blood samples and run a whole range of disease screening. We are doing things like weighing the beaver, checking it's in good body condition, see if it has any injuries, if it needs any veterinary assistance.
This is a fantastic chance to see a beaver's dentition, which really is the secret to their lifestyle of taking down trees. So they've got these enormous incisors, upper and lower. You can see they're orange because the outer surface is lined with iron to strengthen them, giving this chisel-like appearance.
This tooth will grow 1 to 2 centimetres a month.
Wow.
So if they snap off, they'll regrow. Well, Sean, your animals all look in good health, so I think they're good for release.
We were incredibly relieved to find out that our beavers had passed their health checks, making it possible to translocate them down to London.
Very excited! It's like Christmas!
We want to really minimise the amount of time they're in the crates and the amount of journey time, so actually driving through the night from Scotland to London is a good quiet time.
I never thought my life would lead me to a moment when I'm carrying a 30-kilogram beaver through a field.
We've got Dad, the last to join the family.
There's 4 crates. We've got Mum in one, we've got Dad in one, we've got an older daughter from last year in one, and we've got the 2 kids in one.
We're here, the mayor's about to arrive, we're about to get
We're going to go now, so thank you all for coming to the Ealing Beaver Project. It's been a massive effort from a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, community project, real collaboration. So I hope we all have a good time, and I hope this all goes to plan.
Can't but smile when you see these beavers swimming around. I had the pleasure of releasing two kits, and it's great because they're going to improve this community. They help with the ecosystem. They're going to help us as well because, you know, we as a city for too long have been de-wilding our city, and we've got to rewild our city. More greenery, you know, more beavers. We've also got plans for, you know, waterfalls, and it's really important we do that. I think it's an issue of social justice. Many people in London haven't got a garden. They don't get to go to the countryside. We're bringing it to them.
And the best thing about this project is people will be able to come and see these beavers in an urban landscape. You know, this has been years in the making, and to have beavers out now is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, my heart is still going. That was a tense moment. We were like hoping nothing would go wrong, and it went absolutely amazingly.
They just melted right back into this landscape. We're in very urban London, and even though, you know, beavers have not been here for so long, I think what you see is a species that can just merge back into a habitat that it's native to, and hopefully does a lot of good.
Instead of excluding people behind a fence and having beavers on one side, people on the other, we're saying come and see a beaver wetland emerge over time.
So today has been absolutely phenomenal. We've released our family of beavers back into paradise fields, and it went incredibly well. The beavers just swam off into the lagoon, swimming around, doing their beavery thing.
I'm delighted. It couldn't have gone better, really. It all just went swimmingly well. They're back where they belong. Paradise fields. Beavers come out at dusk, they work through the night, and they're still active at dawn. Right from the get-go, our camera traps, monitored by volunteers, provided a window into the beaver's secret world. Nature thrives where there's intermediate disturbance. Beavers provide that kind of disturbance. We watched as the beavers began to transform the habitat at Paradise Fields. As the beavers got their teeth into things, volunteers checked the fence line every morning. And here we are, just 5 short months later, to see how the site has changed.
With our beavers, you can really see the term ecosystem engineers because they have been transforming this landscape around us. It's tempting to think that tree felling is destructive, but tree species like the willow have evolved alongside beavers. Beavers felling them rejuvenates their growth.
Beavers live very well in high nutrient systems just like this. They improve water quality for more sensitive species downstream.
In just a few short months, the beavers have helped improve the water quality. The beavers have created a series of dams.
The willow they've cut us down is actually regenerating.
It's a very complex filtration system.
Organic material containing carbon settles in a beaver wetland, so it acts as a giant carbon sink. Locking up carbon is crucial for addressing climate change. We know we're getting more wet and warm winters. We had a hell of a lot of rain come through here. Normally it would have washed out into urban Greenford, but these dams have done an incredible job of holding back that water and letting it percolate out slowly. When they make a dam like this, you get a pond forming upstream, a big open light-filled pool that really attracts a lot of wildlife. Things like midge larvae that grow into food for bats. You get damselflies, you get dabbling ducks and frogs and newts in the shallows. And most importantly, you get a lot of new species of plant that provide food and cover for water voles.
Beaver dams raise and stabilize the water levels. And over time, the water will spread out and create naturally occurring floodplains. Beaver wetlands can flood trees, creating deadwood, which boosts biodiversity from the bottom up.
This reed bed here was really, really dense and impenetrable, and you can see the beaver highways they've carved out of it, introducing more light into the system, and that will allow the more delicate aquatic plant life to establish.
Clean water plus light equals life.
Now nature has all the niches and microhabitats it needs to really flood in here and thrive. This project was born out of my obsession with water voles, and now, thanks to the beavers, it's well on its way to being water vole ready. And plans are afoot to release them here. This project is more than just rewilded land. A community has built around this project. We are a rewilded people.
Wow, just wow. Matt, Sean, Nadya, what a project. I can just see this film having a ripple effect, right? Just sharing with others that maybe haven't heard that beaver message. But we do have a few minutes for questions, so we can get a mic to you if you raise your hand. What a project, thank you.
Can only move so fast, sorry.
So just as I came down from the stage, I've been handed a DVD. It's called The Beaver Believers. It turns out it already exists, guys. I'm late to the party. So if anyone's got a suggestion for a name for a beaver documentary, a thrilling sequel. But yeah, fantastic. They say there's no such thing as original thought, don't they? Okay, so if we open the floor up to questions.
I have a question for the urban context. We have some ponds in my town of Amarillo that have like really smelly water, and they've actually had some beaver impact on some of the trees around there. So I was just curious, what are the issues you see with like nutrient levels in cities, and how do beavers help mitigate that, or what do they help with?
Yeah, we got asked that a lot. You know, is it responsible to be putting beavers into high nutrient systems that occasionally get, you know, sewage inflow or misconnections from domestic use? This was a brook that was kind of graded an ecological dead zone and very poor quality for several reasons. One being water quality itself, but one also being overshading of the site, because there's been no management on the site, and a lot of that shading has caused, you know, vegetation to decrease and biodiversity to decrease. Beavers are very, very resilient to pollution and high-level nutrient systems, so we didn't have any qualms about putting them in because the water quality wasn't that bad. But we have big problems, just like here, with water quality and sewage and things like that. In Britain. And actually, I think these beavers, as sort of mascots for the health of freshwater ecosystems, are doing a very important job as well. You know, we joke that we're not trying to necessarily restore beaver populations across Greater London yet, but these beavers are actually kind of an educational tool to say, you know, we need to clean up our act, really, when it comes to freshwater quality. But they do very well, and they have, you know, shown in the space of a year remarkable results in improving the water quality for downstream.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak with that as well. As a demonstration site for the beavers, this site, the brook that we were talking about, we couldn't see the bottom of this brook. It's not very deep, but we haven't seen the bottom of this brook for years. So since the beavers came, even a few months afterwards, we were able to see the gravel bed below, just from the dams. And that's just a very powerful, simple way that you can actually see the bottom of where the water is. So it's a very great way to show that even within a few months, they can improve the water quality and hopefully maybe help with your stinky water problem.
I'm staying put here, and I'm passing the mic at the same table over to Allison. She has another question for you.
I'm just so curious if you were able to observe like what they prioritized when they got on site. Did they start building a den right away? Did they go find food? Just curious if you saw anything after you released them.
Yeah, it was really interesting. One of our license conditions was we had to close the site for 1 month to allow the beavers to settle in. The real kind of nervousness of Natural England to allow this project to happen was public interaction. Like, this is the first time this has happened on such a scale. Beavers, you know, sensitive, obviously, after reintroduction. So we closed the site, and I was in there pretty much every day, took a sabbatical from my vet job, and I became a beaver patrol officer, and I was watching them very closely. We put in piles of brash on Roisin's advice for them to see cover in. They actually sought cover right next to the public viewing platform under a dead hedge. And I was like, go away, you can't be here in a month's time. They got to work straight away. So they started taking down pretty thin branches of various species, mainly willow. They got to work on that first dam that Nadya talked about within a night or two. There was crisscross of sticks across that brook, and it was holding back water already on maybe day 3 or 4. So they just got cracking. They didn't tackle any large trees for quite some time, well into the winter. And we were all perplexed as to how they were organizing themselves. Did they have a Gantt chart inside their lodge, or, you know, who was dishing out the work? But yeah, they got cracking, they settled in straight away. And then we knew that they had a more permanent shelter because they disappeared from the viewing platform area. And what they did actually was they burrowed into one of the highest, most inaccessible banks on the reserve, covered by thorny scrub and brambles. And then their lodge appeared above that burrow on the bank by Christmas time. So they now have 3 lodges on site, 7 really functional dams, and lots of other earthworks and smaller dams holding back water. One of the concerns we had was, would they flood the Capital Ring path that flows through? And we were prepared to put in an elevated boardwalk if that happened. But they've actually made a dam along the wet woodland, preventing the Capital Ring from flooding. So they did the work for us. Yeah. Deborah?
The question was about the holding capacity of our site. Our site is 8 hectares, and Sean already alluded that we have a 1.2 kilometer fence around our site. There's no dispersal, and there's no beavers coming in unless we intervene. And so we have had this discussion already about what do we do, how do we manage this? And so we're going to keep the site with just one functional family. So we're going to just let them produce and then translocate the individuals once they age out. So we have our female, right after we come back, we're actually going to start trapping our oldest female daughter, and it's going to go to Alicia in Wales to match up with her male. So we're that's going to be orchestrated by Roisin to make sure that there's no genetic inbreeding. But with having one family there, that reduces a lot of the wildlife, the beaver conflict, and we really don't want to have any publicity in that regard, because this is supposed to be a really hopeful story, and we can show that we can manage this. But yeah, so we're going to translocate the animals out of there.
Time for one more question, I think, if anyone has one. Yeah. So one of the kind of common thoughts from people who are a bit anti-beaver or afraid of beavers coming back is they have no natural predators. We got rid of beavers, we also got rid of bears, wolves and lynx in Britain. But we see the kits do have predators still in the natural landscape. So there was a very high profile release in Scotland back to the wild, one of the first wild release licenses, and within a week 2 of the kits got predated by an otter. So things like otters, foxes, badgers, eagles, where they occur, will take young beavers as well. So the predation issue is not such an issue, and I'm sure many of you know that beavers control beaver populations in terms of territory and access to resources. So we're not too concerned that we'll have a plague of beavers in Britain anytime soon due to lack of predation.
Yeah. So with that, we don't have any more time for questions, but I do encourage you guys to scan the QR code. This is going to be our website. We're going to keep on putting more things out there. It has a lot of the news. It has the documentary as well on there. So it's you can view the documentary. You can share it with people, and it's really great. And do our social media, so you can tag us as the Ealing Beaver Project. Tag us on the socials so that we can keep on carrying on the message of hope with beavers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. So we got a break. We're going to meet right back here at 2:35. Next session here in the main ballroom is Lessons Learned in Planning for BDAs and Beaver Needs. So enjoy the break, and we'll see you back.